See who we have today. Hi, Billy. Hooray, we have people. I'm trying to find, there we are. There's my list of how many bodies we have. Yeah, I like to watch. I like to watch how many. Now we have 6 viewers. Hi, Carol. So, yes, welcome to Tuesday Facebook Live. And we'll just see how much fun we can have today. Going to be a little bit more relaxed than last time. Last time was quite a process for you. So before I get going on what I kind of wanted to talk about today, I want to show you a couple of cool new things that we got at the store here. Sort of new and sort of not new. I mean, the idea is not new. This is a new version right here. Have I got it right way over? Yes, I do. Lovely little bobbin box. So if you're like me, you usually have all of your bobbins, and you can never have too many bobbins for your sewing machine. Tossed in a little dish or in the drawer, and they're all over and the thread's coming out. So this is the Hemline Gold bobbin case. You can see it has space. It's got like a styrofoam insert, and that is going to hold 28 bobbins. They're not super expensive. You might want to pick up if you've got more than one machine at home, and I know a lot of people do. You might need 2 or 3 of these. Keep your bobbins separate so that you're not kind of having to measure and make sure like that. And then we've got a fair number of these, so you can always give the store a call. We can set one aside if you're not able to get in for a few days. Great little product there. And then from the same company, I added this guy in. This is one of those magnetic pin dishes. Takes the place of your pin cushion, but I don't know, it's just pretty. It has a lovely ceramic kind of an interior, shiny. It's quite heavy, so it's not going to move around on your table too much, and it's got a really, really strong magnet. So that's something you could pick up, one for your sewing room and maybe one for your husband's shop so that he can toss the nuts and bolts and screws and things into. It really holds well, and the advantage to something like that, if you do happen to bump it, your pins aren't going to go quite so far around. Just be careful what you put it close to, obviously, but it's got a really strong magnet, and I just like the look of it. It's not really, really big on your sewing table, not going to take up way too much room. And says, happy Tuesday despite being back in the deep freeze of winter. I know, but that will survive. Think of it this way, all that deep freeze cold just gives you an excuse, as if you'd needed one, to stay home and do some more sewing. So yeah, it's not bad. Anyway, a couple of cute new gadgets I thought I would show you, and then I want to talk about, I don't know if you see it on the feed, but I know Tyler has to title every video that we do because they are recorded. So this one is backgrounds and base layers. So I was gonna start by asking you, when you pick up that quilt pattern and you turn it over to see what you need to buy to go on it, and it says background so many meters, do you automatically default to a solid color, to a Kona snow? I've used it. There's nothing wrong with a background that's just plain like that. Quilters love them because it gives us lots of space to quilt on. But sometimes our background can be a lot more exciting than just a solid color. I'm watching my screen here. If you see me looking up, I love to see the comments from people, see who's tuning in. I have somebody tuning in from our YouTube channel, somebody named Robin, and she's tuned in from New Jersey. She says NJ, so I'm assuming that's New Jersey. So welcome to my sewing room Facebook and YouTube Live. We do this every afternoon around 4:15. So tips and tricks and projects and lots of fun. So anyway, backgrounds. Yes, backgrounds don't have to be boring. They can be fun, a little more active. And so I was going to start off before I show you some of these luscious fabrics that Dawn has put out for us. I want to tell you a quilt story. Quilt stories are wonderful. I hear a lot of them from people dropping off quilts. This is my personal quilt story. So switch, see if that goes. Has it got blue in? Yeah. So that's a quilt pattern. A number of years ago, actually the quilt has a label that says 2008. I went to a trunk show by a local quilter and quilt designer, and I picked up one of her patterns. This one right here. It's called Adagio. It's fused applique. 1,832 pieces of fused applique, if I recall rightly. Now, I won't say never, but I quite often like to adapt the pattern to something I want to do. So I'm going to switch you back. There you go. I'm going to slide over, and you can see the quilt here behind me that I made from that pattern. It took me 6 months to gather the fabrics because they all had to have sort of a bit of softness to them, and a lot of them will have a glitter to them. Does that sound familiar? A little bit of bling. But it had to be silver, not gold. So I made the quilt, and as I say, this was 2008, so I didn't quite know what I was doing. And my background is a tone-on-tone white that we carry a lot of. You can't tell, even close up, it's very hard to tell. Gave me lots of space to quilt it, and yes, that was quilted on my home sewing machine. Okay, it has every applique piece, because I'm a purist. Fused applique should be stitched around, so this was all stitched around with sulky prismatic holographic thread. I used 9 spools of it. Anyway, that was made from that pattern. You can see the difference between the pattern with the black background and the hot tropical colors, and the white background and the pastel colors. So completing the quilt circle, I entered that quilt because I was retired at the time. I had lots of time. I entered the quilt in Creative Stitches, when it was still called Creative Stitches, was held down at the Roundup Center. And we were looking around towards the end of the show. I was there with my sister. She says, "Hey, you won something." And I can't remember, and I forgot to bring the card with it. I won either Best of Show or Viewer's Choice. I won a sewing machine from my sewing room. It's currently sitting over there in the long arm area. And the pattern, this lovely pattern, I just might do it again, was designed. The quilter whose trunk show I went to was A. Rossman, who used to run the long arm department here. So that's a quilt circle. That's how our community coordinates and comes full circle around sometimes. And it's just, it still amazes me that this little pattern, when I bought it, when I had so much fun and so many months of enjoyment making that quilt, would bring me round to where I am right now. I love quilt stories. But so that shows you how changing the background behind your quilt or within your quilt can make a difference in how it looks. So you don't have to limit yourself to those basic flat Kona fabrics. There's a ton of great fabrics in the store that are going to work as a background, whether you're piecing or doing applique or anything else. So I just want to show you, Dawn has put out some wonderful collections, And I think I'm going to switch you over here. Look at this. This is just one of them. She's opened one of the bundles here. And I think this is the, what did she call that guy? This is the Hush Hush line. So here's the package all bundled up, just like that. Dawn does such a great job at pulling fabrics. So some are quite intriguing, some much softer that you could use. So I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but this is actually, it looks like a charcoal on a creamy white. This one has little tiny soft pale blue hearts. That would be lovely with this one. Soft little butterflies in, it's almost an aqua gray, not aqua, lilac gray. Got a hint of purple in that one, but very delicate. And you can probably tell even through the camera feed how that's just going to recede and become a background when you pair it with other fabrics. There's a little pink heart one. This one's a little bit more densely printed. What does it say? Oh, it's got words on it. Silver cloud, sand dollar. Oh, lovely. Lovely on that one. We've got some flamingos, some bows. So some of them in the line are a little more figured, but even something like this that's got so many colors through it, when you work that into your project, that's going to function like a background because it's a subtle all over design. The eye doesn't necessarily go to any one thing. This is kind of fun, just part of the line. Look at that. Something a little brighter. Got some rainbow stars on that. Even that would work for a background. So this, I thought, was a really good example of some of the things. Look at this one. It's actually printed as if it was pieced. There we are. I'm going to leave that one out because it kind of leads to the second part of what I wanted to talk about today. This is just a talk. This is not really a project. This is kind of fun. Little houses here. Okay. So this isn't a new idea for a lot of you, I'm sure, but it's one that I'm finding is we see a lot of people who think it's not okay to use something like that. Now, I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows it's perfectly okay. And when you mix soft fabrics like that with coordinates, it gives your quilt a little bit of sparkle. So I pulled this one out in particular because it kind of leads to the next thing when we talk about the background of our work. Okay, so this is printed as if it was pieces of fabric sewn together. I know with all the cold weather, we're always hearing about base layers. Well, I was reading through a magazine, probably the Quilting Arts, and they were talking about base layers, but they were talking about base layers when it comes to quilting. So I thought, I should try that. So I made one. So this is a base layer for anything I want to put on it, actually. I chose to stitch the pieces down raw edge, but you can certainly piece them together with seams. You can do it random, as I did, or you can do it in a more formal layout. It's up to you. So, as I say, I made mine. I took backing fabric, I took batting, and I laid it out, smoothed it out. I was working quite small. If you wanted to do something larger, of course, you could use your basting spray. the 505, just to hold those two together. And then I just randomly started setting out types of beige fabrics, just because I had them, and just because I know I want to do something on here that the beige is going to be a contrast to. So this is a base layer for something else. And I've got, here's another little quilt story. This is a scrap of a hanky that I used the corner of for a different project. It's almost like you could work your memories into something like this. I've got a little piece of muslin. What really sparked this triangular corner, we were cleaning out our bathroom cabinet a while ago, and I found one of those old-fashioned fabric triangle slings that you used to collect in case you hurt your arm or your shoulder and you had to tie a sling. Do you remember your Girl Guides where you had to learn how to wrap that and tie the sling? And it was just such a soft fabric, washed. It has texture to it. So I thought, I'm going to put that on my base layer. So now I have a base onto which I can do any number of things. I can embroider on it, do something fun and funky. I can sew buttons on it. I can stamp on it. I have some stamps from card making and some stamp pads. Stamp on it. I can applique on it, just as we started with an applique pattern. You can applique big sunflowers or snowmen or whatever you like. Fuse it right down on there, add some more stitching, and you're done. Make a cute little panel. I wanted to show you, you're probably familiar with these, the Laura Heine collage patterns quite often use a pieced background. This one is definitely pieced. If you compare that to Abilene, that's not reflecting too badly. This is one piece of fabric, but it's fabric that's printed to look as if it was pieced. So you have the option, if you're working with something like that, to actually piece that background. You can piece it as a base layer like this with raw edge. You can sew it together and piece it in the traditional fashion. In a sense, you are creating your own fabric. Blossoms and Spokes. Here's another one with a background that looks like it has been pieced together. Now, whether it actually is main pieces backgrounds. Yeah, this one actually is a pieced background, and then the applique is put on top of it. So it adds that interest to your work that a plain solid background doesn't have. I think it's just a ton of fun and a ton of, I don't know, exploration, I guess you would call it. I like to explore fabrics and see what they will do and see how they play off against each other. A base layer like what I have done with the creams and beiges and a little bit of florals in them, it just has so much possibilities when it comes to what I choose to layer on top of it. So don't limit yourself. Take some time to explore some of the fabrics that you have at home. Come to the store and explore some of the wonderful new collections that we've gotten in. This one, as I say, was called, oh, there goes my camera. Okay, wake up camera. There we are, we're back. That was the Hush Hush collection. We have another one here. I'm not going to open it up. This one is particularly pretty. It's called Shadow and Light. And there are a number of fabrics. If I just do this for you, there are a number of fabrics in that line that are going to make gorgeous backgrounds for even your pieced work. This one is a little subtler. I like that polka dot one. So yes, lots of new fabric lines coming in that are going to give you the option of making your background more interesting. So what else we got? Oh, here's another one. This is also the shadow and light. So there's the two fabrics, same fabrics, different colors. And I'm looking at my TV screen. I know it's really, really hard to tell on when you're looking on a device. The colors that I'm seeing on my TV screen seem really intense. They're not. They're very, very soft and delicate. So I think that's just a lovely line. And then going obviously to the opposite end, I'm just going to grab a bolt from back here. Okay. I love this type of thing. That in there. Now there's black. Sometimes we want a dark background. Oh, look at that. It's not completely black. It's just how the light is catching it. Hopefully you can see that. That is cats all over it. Now, on my TV, they look really, really predominant. But value-wise, you're only getting, in real life, a very subtle cat print over the whole fabric. So that would be really fun if you're working on a quilt with a cat theme. And then, of course, really soft neutrals as far as print goes. Here's one with stars. Let's hold that up. There you go. You can see that a little bit. That's a great background. Great background. Might have to get some of that one. So, don't limit yourself. Don't feel that you just, oh, I gotta just use something plain in my quilt. If you remember, I gotta reach this thing. There we go. If you remember the good old days when we were first learning to quilt, and we were always told, first you start with your border fabric, because in those days all quilts had borders. They don't anymore. But you got your border fabric, and it was usually a large print of some sort, and then you started pulling your fabric colors based on what was in your border fabric. I'm so glad that we don't limit ourselves anymore with that sort of a I don't know, prescription, because it's so much more fun if we can mix and match and do just what makes us happy, what makes us enjoy the things that we're working on, fabrics we love to hold. So it was nice of you to drop by today. That's all I've got for you. It was just kind of an off the top of my head, because I realized how important backgrounds are to our work. Think of it this way. If you took a piece of white paper and you put a dot right in the center, the first thing anybody's eye would see when you showed them that would be that single dot. So that would be distracting if that was placed in amongst a lot of other pieces. But if you took that same piece of paper and covered it with dots, the eye wouldn't pick out any one. It would become a textural background, and it would help to play off of some of the other pattern fabrics that we love, that we choose to put in our quilts. So that's the principle. Don't make your backgrounds boring, or if you really have that quilt, you've got the solid fabric in it, enjoy it for what it is, and take some time and do some quilting on it to give it the texture that it doesn't get from having a design printed on it. So that was my quilt story for today. Not too much, but I hope it gives you something to think about as we progress through this next whole wonderful year of cutting up pieces of fabric and sewing them back together. Remember what I said before, it's artwork. You're the artist. You can do whatever you like. Thank you for tuning in again. I hope everybody's staying nice and warm. And write your own quilt story. It'll be, and send it to us. Send us an email. This is my quilt story. We'd love to hear that. Don't forget our January challenge, our first viewers challenge. Maybe something that we've talked about today can be worked into that. Very, very simple, no prizes, just a way to explore some of the things you're doing. We want you to make a project no larger than 24 by 24 or 24 by 24 by 24 if you're working in 3 dimensions. Make a project that celebrates winter. Maximum size 24 by 24, and it must contain something with a little bit of sparkle to it, whether it's a glittery thread, maybe a jewel like I've scattered a few on this quilt, maybe some fabric with just a little bit of shine to it. So take a picture when you're done, send it to us in an email, tell us a little bit of a story about your quilt, and we'll be able to feature those in our newsletter and maybe on our Facebook. And I just think it's going to be lots of fun, and it challenges us. So that's what I've got for you today. Sandy's in, I think she's here tomorrow, but she did say something about a beach. So that's going to be kind of fun. We will talk to you again likely Thursday or Friday. I'm not sure. We're teaching Aunt Annie's on Thursday afternoon. And I know Leah's got her V8 software class coming up on Friday. So until then, have a wonderful day. Stay warm and happy quilting.